sense of your whole entire body, rather than when I ask you the question of where you see yourself in your body and you answer or you feel some sort of answer kind of pertaining to this area, right? I am my mind, I am my thoughts, I am my senses, but naturally you are the whole body. Everything is here. You feel it all, you can be aware of it all, right? So as you're able to sit here and move your awareness through, or do certain practices on your own time, where you can pretend you're looking out your knee, or your awareness is all the way in the base of your spine, looking out, behind you. This type of exercise you can do to kind of move your awareness through your body will give you kind of more of an understanding of what's going on. And as you do things like exercise and eat well and get connected with your body, like dance and these types of things, you're bringing your awareness to a greater sense, because you're able to command each and every one of your cells in a certain way, right? Naturally, when you're not moving and you're keeping yourself confined, and you're not able to move when you're 60 years old because you've been sitting on a chair for a certain period of time, naturally the awareness of your entire anatomy is not there. So the awareness in your life, in your reality, in your relationships, that's going to be the same thing, because you're constricted, right? So something to keep in mind when you kind of get into that sense of moving your awareness through your body. But today, some interesting topics, obviously very prevalent in pretty much all of our lives, and that being the state of the false self, or the ego. And this is something that I probably talk about for like many classes on end, and I'm sure we all can. Firstly, the misconception with what we think the ego actually is. And most people, they hear the word ego and they think like being macho, or trying to be cool, and that's a part of it. But the ego is much deeper than that. The ego is really everything that you are not, if you want to look at it that way. Each and everything in which you identify yourself with is something that you are not, because you can't identify yourself with any external. So when you ask the question to yourself, who am I? Or you pose that question to somebody else, naturally the first answer that comes in your mind is your name, right? I am Corey. And then I go on top of that about explaining my personality, right? This is my personality, this is who I think I am. These are the experiences in which I've had. These are the material possessions in which I have. This is the job title in which I live by. And this is how I identify myself, right? I have this child, he is mine, right? So, well, not yet. But from that sense, you're getting into an identification with something, right? The ego needs that. It needs an identification with something for it to be real. So as you're asking this question, you're answering with all things in which you are not. You're confusing yourself more and more from the deeper sense. When you go into meditation for whatever amount of time, and you sink into the moment when maybe you just had it. Maybe you just had it for a second, where you felt that no thought zone. No thoughts in your mind. You're not thinking about the things you own. You're not thinking about the relationships you have. You're not thinking about anything other than nothing. You're here, right? Not even feeling your physical body in a sense, because that's probably our biggest attachment, is the attachment to our physical body. And if we die and we lose it, then what's left, right? So in that sense, when you're able to taste it, it's like tasting the fruit. It's like you're peeling away all the peels on the outside, and you're tasting the fruit which is in the center. This is the realization which you're trying to get to, where it's not something you can explain. When they ask the question, who are you, or who am I, you can't explain this in a logical sense, right? And for you to even sit here and say, Corey, no, that doesn't make sense, because I am this person, I am these things, is the attachments in which you've created. Because naturally, over time, things come and go. And when you hear people on their deathbed and they're sitting there and they've accumulated all these things and they had all these job titles and all these certifications and all these relationships, but they sit there and they see them all kind of dissipating and dissolving away. And there's nothing left other than their presence, the presence of who they are in the moment. And all of a sudden, this realization that the society in which we lived in, this very dualistic nature of society where, it's kind of me versus you, this country versus this country, how can I get mine versus how can you get yours? That mindset is completely coming from that egotistical mindset of attributing things to yourself, feeling as if you're not enough. We talked about it last class in the relationship portion of things, where most people, if I asked you, go to somebody and hand them $100 versus go to somebody and ask them for $100. Naturally, you know which one would be easier. And if we were to kind of realize that in ourselves, where just the presence alone of you being there, you being that $100 bill, is enough in itself for you to get anything in which you desire. In that sense, it would, acquire a new sort of relationship, meeting some sort of new person. But from this idea that you're not enough, so the egotistical mindset of I need more, I need to accumulate more, I need to become more, I need to achieve more, until I can find that sense of fulfillment. But what we're kind of missing here is that idea of we're stuck in this horizontal mindset of time. Horizontal mindset of days, hours, minutes, years, whatever, right? We've set this timeline on our life, on what we think our life is going to be, and by the time we're 25, if we're not married and we haven't fulfilled that within ourselves, then all of a sudden now we're down on ourselves, we're getting pissed that we haven't fulfilled it yet, now we're feeling stressed that we have to fulfill it. But naturally, this timeline of horizontal time never ends, right? We set a million goals, we achieve them, then we need to set new ones. And the fulfillment in which you're looking for is what's feeding the ego more and more. It's just feeding it, and creating it bigger and bigger and bigger, and removing yourself with what's called that vertical time. The deepening aspect of time, which is really, you can experience each and every moment on such a deepening level, where thinking about tomorrow doesn't concern you. Because, it's like a baby. When a baby is sitting in a room, I can give this lighter, hopefully it doesn't play with it, but I can give it this lighter and it's just there. And it could sit with it for an hour, 2 hours, a day. And it will be so kind of amused by it, right? It would be so amused by it because it's so deepened in that state of presence. In that state of idea of, if I experience this moment more than what I'm thinking about what I need to experience tomorrow, then naturally I don't need to think about those things. I don't need to think about all the things I need to achieve or the timeline I've placed in my life and all these things. Now,